Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything. Yes, how are you all doing? Beautiful. I'm doing great. Excited to be in this space again. Yeah, you know the way we say it. We come into this space to do what? Lean on one another's experience positively and forge that path. Yes, that's what the word cafe is all about. Today I have something very interesting I want us to look at, the neuroscience of success. But more or less, we're going to be dwelling on neuroscience. And I have this amazing personality that will be doing justice to this topic. Yes, he's a neuroscientist or a neurologist, as we may want to, call him an award winning neuroscientist. His name is Dr. Nii Borire. He has this calm personality that tells me that neuroscience is calm and deep. I tell you, you will enjoy every bit of it. Enough of my talking. I just have to bring him on now so that we go into why we are here. Where is he? You want to see his face, and there he is. Hi,
Hello.
Dr. Nee. How are
Hello.
you?
Thanks for having me. I'm great. I'm great.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And I'm
So,
really
what
pumped
is
to
it
be here.
like? Oh, wonderful. Welcome. What is it like at your end? Because I know you are somewhere at the end of the earth. What is it like there?
Well, I'm in your future. Okay. I'm already in the future for you. It's 8:10
Exactly.
p.m. right now, Saturday evening. It's cool. Actually, it's relatively cold, and we're in winter, so
Hmm.
we're already getting to the peak of the winter season. But yeah, it's been a quiet day for me, just chilling, relaxing. And I just
Mm,
went bowling with a couple of friends. So we just
okay.
came back from the bowling club.
All
So
right.
it's just been a chilled day.
Yeah.
I can't complain.
Beautiful. Can't complain. When you said you're in my future, the way the world works. You imagine where on. I mean, this is Saturday, quite all right. But you now
Yeah.
imagine that some people are 20 or 10 hour ahead of you, and it's like, wow, amazing. So these guys are actually in my future. They've seen what will happen already, so to say. And we are still just rolling. Welcome.
Yeah.
So before we do anything, we'd like to meet Nee Borire. Dr. Nee, who is this amazing Nee Borire? Who is he?
Wow, what a question. So Borire is multidimensional, or I would use the word multifaceted. I'm flawed. I'm as flawed as they come. But then I'm grateful to God that I have the opportunity to um, build on my flaws and to not give in to those weaknesses, or not allowing my weaknesses and my failings to define me. So I see myself from four dimensions. There's me, the person, and that's, I think, the most important part of me. Me, the person. Me, I'm a very strong-willed person by
Mm,
nature, but
mm,
I've learned to calm down as I've grown older. I am very analytical. I like organizing and planning things, so I've got a bit of OCD in me, and it's
mm,
not surprising that I chose a field of neurology and neuroscience because most neuroscientists are skeptics and they've got a bit of OCD in them, trying to check things
mm,
and make sure everything is right. So as a person, I'm still, pleasant to get on with, at least so a lot of my people say. I like to enjoy, relax myself. I love
mm,
sports. I'm a proud supporter of Manchester City Football Club.
mm,
And I'm a member of the club, and I've been so since my university days. I love rugby. I love athletics, tennis.
mm,
I'm a sports
mm,
person in general.
mm,
And I also love, I enjoy watching movies, the MCU, Marvel, all the, Iron Man, all I've watched all of them. I enjoy
mm,
relaxing, having time with the family. So that's me, the person. I'm blessed to have married a wonderful woman, my only love. We
mm,
met in high school, and we've just come to love each other. I hope you
Mm.
can still see me.
Yeah, I
Yes,
can still
we
see you.
met in high school and we've just come to love each other. And so I'm privileged to have her, and to raise two sons with her. So Ethan and
Beautiful.
Daniel are boys. So that's need a person. There's need a professional, which is what a lot of people see. I'm a
Mm,
neurologist by training, meaning that I'm involved in diagnosing and treating patients with disorders of the brain, the nerves, and the spinal cord. That's
mm,
what I do as a physician, but I'm also involved in neuroscience. That's understanding how the brain works and how to unravel the functions of the brain and how applying that to our daily lives. So I lecture in the university as well, and
mm,
so that's need a professional. There's also need a people builder. Which is
mm,
probably what brought us together when I felt there was something much more than the person and the professional, and that's about building people. And I've got a calling to help raise leaders. I've got a mandate to build leaders who do not just react to change, but leaders who will create their own desired change. And that's something that I feel so strongly about. And so it's reflecting in all of the different expressions that I have,
mm,
including my latest outfit, which is called Legacy Consults. And that's basically focused on the neuroscience of leadership and performance, improving the quality of leadership in organizations using neuroscience as a tool. And the
mm.
final part is near the preacher. I'm still a person of faith. I'm still a person that is defined by my faith in God and my connection with God. And
Yeah.
I'm privileged enough to lead a group of people in our local community here in Liverpool, in Sydney, where we bless lives and we encourage people to pursue their faith in Christ. So that's basically the different dimensions of me, all right, of what I do,
Mhm.
of and who I am. Very long answer.
You know,
Hey.
when you said you're analytical in nature, I was like, okay, fine, let's see how it goes. And yours truly, doing the intros, analytical you are because you just took it like that from the person, the profession, the your
Thank you.
passion,
Person builder. Yeah.
you're the person builder, and you went, I'm also a faith-based person, as in I'm a preacher. I believe in God through Jesus, and this is what
Mhm.
I do, and I'm part of it. So we can just see that, you know, analysis coming together, though we're not paralyzed anyway. So why should I, yes, we're not paralyzed. Why should I bother myself about neuroscience? Because when you say neuroscience, those of us in Africa, we it's somewhat distant from us when you talk about
Yeah.
neuroscience. And in the medical field, you just hear us general practitioners, blah blah blah, but you rarely see people go into things like neurology or neuroscience. So why did you go into that?
Yeah, I think I've always been fascinated by the brain. I remember that when I was in my second year of medical school, I was privileged to actually look at the brain, to handle the brain of a real cadaver. So we had, human cadavers in our dissecting lab, and I was the
Mm,
chief dissector in our class, second year anatomy class. And I
mm,
remember opening up the skull of this cadaver and, picking up the brain. And I was just fascinated by the complexity of the structures there. The
mm.
brain is such an amazing work of art. You know,
Okay.
the brain is amazing in its complexity, it's profound. And up till now, we've not scratched the surface. Billions of neurons firing together in
Mm,
synchrony, as powerful as any, more powerful than any supercomputer ever built. All right. The
yeah.
genius behind the development of the brain, where you've got billions of cells communicating together through chemical substances, all right,
Mm,
and still yet determining the outcome of all that we do. And I think as I started exploring the brain from a clinical point of view, meaning that my initial adventure into neuroscience was to help people get better.
okay.
I wanted
Yeah.
to help people with neurological disorders,
Hmm.
stroke, epilepsy, headaches, migraines, multiple sclerosis,
Mm,
problems like that. That was my desire to help alleviate pain and suffering. But I think as I started exploring the brain, I realized there was a lot to the brain, a lot more to the brain than just illness. And that
okay.
understanding the connection of the brain and the mind and how these two are connected, how they work,
Mm,
is very key in understanding human behavior and human conditioning. And so a lot of the things that we accept, a lot of the things that we do, a lot of the way, even the way we do things are all encoded in our brains. The way we talk, the
Mm.
way we dress, our view of life, our biases, the things we
Mhm.
are biased about, our stereotypes, and all of those things are determined by the brain. That determines our attitude, our, and so there are different aspects of the brain that and of the brain in particular that sort of got me hooked up. And by the time I
Mm.
started going deeper into particularly cognitive neuroscience, which is the aspect
Okay.
of neuroscience that looks at the working of the mind and the brain, it's sort of the mind and our ability to make decisions. I realized that it was really important, that this is a really important aspect of human life and human endeavor. And I think in the last few decades, it's become
Mm.
something that a lot of people are beginning to understand. You see a lot of people out there, mindset coach. Of course, a lot of them don't understand what they're talking about,
Mhm.
and with all due respect. But ultimately, with my background in neuroscience for the last 2 decades, I think it's given me a lot of credibility to be able to talk about how the brain works.
All right. Now, there's a question I'm going to bring up, but you just mentioned mindset coach. So let us build on that. There's a lot of mindset coaches out there, but truly, do they understand the concept of in the mind engineering? So, from your perspective, what is mindset coach all about?
Well, I don't call myself a mindset coach, but you'll see that it's anyone can be a coach these days. And in fact, the word coaching is really, really being bastardized now. Almost everybody can coach. The reality is
Mm.
that we all coach ourselves, isn't it? Even you yourself can coach yourself. So a
Yeah.
coach is just somebody who can help people solve their own problems, develop a problem, an action plan to solve their own problems. And sometimes we do that ourselves. We do that in our peer groups, and sometimes we need people that are
Mm.
experts in a particular area to coach us to achieve excellence. Coaching is not generally about teaching. So I've got a fitness coach. My fitness
Mm.
coach does not necessarily teach me about
Mhm.
exercise. My fitness coach draws out a plan for me that I can execute. My fitness
Okay.
coach stands by the sidelines and allow me to shine, to get to achieve my
Mm.
goals, holds me accountable. That's what coaching is. So that's why a coach is not a teacher, a coach is not a trainer, a coach is not a facilitator. No, a coaching, Serena Williams's coach does not teach her how to strike a ball. She already knows how to do that. His job is to develop a game plan and help her
Mhm.
maintain her fitness and make sure she executes it to win a championship. You can apply that to mindset coaching as well. I would assume that people who are in this field or who label themselves as mindset coaches have learned one or two things about the mind, how the mind works, and they understand the limitation that a lot of people experience is from their minds. The
Mm.
truth is that there's the mind body connection, and that a lot of people are really handicapped, by some of the subconscious processes that go on in the mind. And
Mm.
sometimes it's really important to be able to have somebody to expose those things to expose those things and help develop a plan to overcome them. The reality is that there's a lot more about the mind that we are unconscious about. The subconscious part of the mind is a lot more deep. It's like an iceberg. The surface of the
Mm.
iceberg is the conscious part of the mind. A very good example of that would be your thoughts, your decision making, your analytical, logical reasoning. Those are all
Yeah.
conscious parts of the mind. So you need to be fully conscious and aware to be able to analyze. For example, if I give you a question and I ask you who the president of the United States is, you can analyze that. If I give you multiple choice options and I say Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, you analyze that and you need to be conscious to be able to do that. Of course, you rely on
Mm.
your memory to do that. But there's a lot more that we do on a daily basis that is so subconscious. In fact, I would say that more than 50% of the things we do every day are subconscious, they're autopilot. All right.
Mm.
So some of the behaviors that we do, a lot of the things that we do are are already programmed within the subconscious, and those are the things that determine our habits. Those are the things that determine our outcomes in life. So there's no doubt about the fact that with our understanding of neuroscience and its impact on our behavior and our pursuit of excellence,
Mm.
mindset engineering or mindset coaching is essential. The challenge I have is that a lot of people will attend 2 or 3 day programs. They would, then put on the label that they're mindset coaches, and of course,
mm,
just get a lot of people wrong. So there's a real need for that, particularly in Africa, where a lot of people, where the models of
mm,
success have been twisted, where the stereotypes and the examples that people have seen over the years are
mm,
not adequate or founded on good principles. And
mm,
so it's more, it can't be emphasized. We can't overemphasize the need for that mental re-engineering in this day and age. And that's one
mm.
of the things I champion.
Now, to the question, I was watching a documentary some time ago on, I think that was on Curiosity Channel, and we're talking about uh, people from Romania, Transylvania to be precise, in Romania, that they have a high threshold for pain. And the documentary went into like looking at why this, and they traced it back to Vlad Dracula, the impaler, as they call him, that things he did at that time, and all that brought this, what I say, high threshold of pain. So from generation to generation, and it's been passing on. So I now asked myself, is it that consciousnesses can be transmitted from one timeline to another? Based on what you just said now, your subconscious is just the tip of the iceberg. I want us to look at that. Consciousnesses. Is it possible for it to be transmitted from one timeline to another, generationally speaking?
Absolutely. And um, very good example, though not perfect, would be transgenerational trauma that we see amongst indigenous populations across the world, whether they're
Yeah.
African Americans in the United States, or the Red Indians, or if you go to Canada or Australia, the
Mm,
Aboriginal groups. You'll see that a lot of the current, let's just take America for example. The average African American does not see himself as being fully part of society. They feel themselves that
mm,
they're disadvantaged. Some of them have never faced discrimination. Some of them never lived during the civil rights era. Some of them
mm,
did not live under the Jim Crow laws. Some of them never knew what segregation was. But there's still
mm,
that mentality which is passed transgenerationally, from stories, from culture, from conditioning, from what the expectations are. And sometimes, of course, parents are trying to pass on this strong mental strongholds with the mind of
mm,
safety, trying to protect. For example, I was watching a documentary today, a series of videos on YouTube of
mm,
encounters between police and the black Americans. It's very not unlikely that the average black parent in the United States will want their teenage kid, to do this, to do that, to be cautious, don't put on a hoodie, don't do this, don't do that,
mm,
just because they want to protect them. What all of course that does is that there's transmission of that culture at a very subconscious level. It introduces a bias. All right.
mm,
So and that's in society, and it's not only even for white people, even black people. You see the average. You see an average 22-year-old or a teenage boy running on the streets in an affluent neighborhood with a hoodie on, and you just assume, that they're this or that. I've had
mm,
patients come into my office, not expecting to see a black neurologist. I'm one of 2 black neurologists in Australia. All right, it's a very, very
mm,
white country. I've had people come into my office saying they're looking for the doctor, and I am the doctor. All right. So, and that's just because of the expectation. They're expecting an old white man as a
mm,
neurologist who will look after them, blah, blah, blah. So, all of
mm,
these expectations, the same thing, I just corrected my somebody, talking to my son saying that, oh, men don't cry. She just told my 6-year old was crying, and this person was trying to console my 6-year-old. So he said, oh, no, no, men don't cry, boys don't cry. Do you understand what I'm
mm.
saying? Now he hears that
Yeah.
over and over and over again. And what that creates is that, what, you have to fight this vulnerability. He would feel
Mm,
its weakness to cry. He wouldn't want to show emotion. And then he will grow up becoming a very, very emotionally immature person, not being able to
mhm,
process his own feelings appropriately. And you know what that can lead to. So through interactions at a very subconscious level, and this is something that is actively done or actively taught, but by
Mm,
what generations, subsequent generations see, they can, as you know, they can, biases can be transmitted, stereotypes can be transmitted, and even certain physical attributes can be transmitted, not just through the genetic phenomenon. There's genetic phenomenon, of course, where genes are passed from
mm-hmm.
generation to generation. All right. For
Yeah.
example, you look at the Samoans. There's a reason why the Samoans and the Kiwis are very good in rugby, which is very
Mm-hmm.
physical. All right. The width of the
Yeah.
shoulder of the average Samoan or the Kiwi man, even the Caucasians can, there's a reason why basketball players, a lot of them are African Americans. There's a lot of
Mm,
genetics that come into play there. And over
yeah.
over over time. So genetics plays a part. But even beyond genetics, just sociology, our social interactions, and
Mm,
and the everyday life. Through that, a lot of wrong mindsets are transmitted from generation to generation. I'm sure you've heard the story of the woman who would only cook with a very small pot. I can't remember the
mm,
way the story was really fashioned, and I think somebody was challenging, why are you cooking with a small pot? Why are you always cooking? And the person said, well, my mother also cooked with a pot. And then when they asked the mom, well, my own mother also cooked with a small pot. And then why, when they asked, the grandmother, I think there was just, I can't remember the story. I was one flimsy
mm,
reason where what
mm,
they had was not enough, so that's why they were using small pot. Sometimes you have some of these weird things, or established mindsets that are passed from
mm-hmm.
generation to generation, which need to be challenged. And so we need to challenge those things with what we have, with our knowledge now. Yeah, so I think in a nutshell, it's quite possible that there's a transgenerational transfer of belief
Yeah.
systems, attitudes,
Mm,
culture, even pain and trauma. All right. And you'll see that the emotions that are still being, like we work with the Aboriginal people, for example, in Australia. The average
yeah.
Aboriginal person in Australia receives, on an average, the Australian government spends about 60 to $65,000 a year on an Aboriginal person. They are not up to 500,000 Aboriginal people right now in Australia, in a country of 25, 27 million. All right.
Whoa.
But the government, because of the years of, discrimination, are trying to look after them. But let me
Mm-hmm.
tell you, the average Aboriginal 22-year-old now doesn't want to go to school, all right, because he knows he's going to get benefits, knows that he is getting free healthcare, he lives a
Yeah.
tax-free life because Aboriginal people don't pay tax, all right.
Okay.
They still get royalties from the government for their land and all that. And so you see the average 22-year-old drinking away and doing all of those things, not wanting to have any education or to pursue anything. And that's why in this country, their life expectancy is in the 40s and 50s compared to the average life expectancy of the country, which
Mm,
is 85. All right.
yeah.
But you ask that 22-year-old, have you been racially profiled before? No. Have you been put in jail on the basis of your race before? No. They might not have had any physical experience of racism, but they have
Yeah.
a transgenerational mindset of racism and discrimination, which has been passed on over the years, and so they
Mm.
feel they're rejected, they feel unheard, they feel unloved, and they carry it there, even though they may not have any empirical evidence to back that up. All right, but that's just the way they feel, and that may limit them.
Now, looking at this, what is the downside to this? Because I have not been verbally abused, I've not been psychologically abused, physically or whatever. But because of what I've been told from one generation to the other, I subject myself to it. I mean, how
That's what's
how do
happening.
I
That's what
how do I
that's
break
what's
out of
happening.
this?
Well, the only way you break out of it is by seeing examples. Most people do not realize the power of the Obama presidency in the United States. The fact
Mm,
that you could see somebody like you achieve something great, how liberating that is for a lot of
mm,
people. All right. I remember reading the story of Roger Bannister, the first man to run the mile under 4 minutes. No one had
mm.
run the mile under 4 minutes before. Everybody kept trying. Do you know the moment the first person ran it under 4 minutes, more than two or three people did it straight away?
All right.
Sometimes when we see people break through All right, that empowers us. There's nothing as
Mm,
powerful as you seeing somebody doing. I was inspired to pursue neuroscience because I read the book Gifted Hands by John Ben Carson. I wanted
mm,
to be a neurosurgeon, but of course that didn't work out for me because I just don't have the resilience of being a
mm,
neurosurgeon. I was too nerdy for being for neurosurgery. Neurosurgery is just too hands-on, practical, that
mm.
kind of thing. And I was just like, I was a nerd, and I'm not cut out for standing 22 hours operating on the brain. I prefer to read and watch YouTube videos. you know
Okay.
so, but ultimately, you realize that when you see people break out of those molds, that's it. That's what liberates other people. It's very
Mm,
possible for you to have people wedded to a particular philosophy, wedded to a particular mental attitude, and reproduce that over and over again and accept that low estate as their very
mm.
pasture. So a lot of people are still walking in that zone, living in that zone. If you go to the scriptures, for example, for those who are people of
Yeah.
faith here, you will know how easy it was for the Israelites to spend 40 years wandering in the wilderness, doing the same thing, going over over and over and over again, until someone said, well, it's time to move forward. Okay, we've gone around
Yeah.
this mountain for too long. It's now time for us to make progress.
Mm,
So there's this, people can get up in this, mob mentality. Those who are caught up in the mob mentality will just go round and round and round with every other person. Don't do it
mm,
intentionally. All right. You
mm,
they get to a place of comfort where you just sleep, you wake up, you do your thing, you have a salary, and you are just held bound by some of those belief systems, not knowing that they are the ones limiting you. So people just feel that, oh well, I can't do that. Oh no, you know what? What's the point? Maybe I shouldn't. I was talking to somebody today who we was just we I said we went for bowling, and I was just talking to a guy, and we're just having an interaction, and we're talking about getting into the property market. And I was asking
yeah.
why, he's not, try to get a mortgage and to buy a house. I said he's trying to save. I said, okay, well, you're a citizen, you know, have you gone to a broker? He said no, and all of that. By the time I told him, I said, do you know now that just with a 5% deposit you can get a mortgage? He didn't even know that. So I told him the average house price and how much you would need, he had more
Mm-hmm.
than that. All right.
Mm,
He had more than that. But he just assumed that, okay, you know what, I just need to do this. I just need to do this without challenging that and saying, just let me ask a question. Let me just meet somebody. Let me just talk to someone. All right. So it is very possible to be held bound, all right, by some of these, limiting belief systems and
mm,
mindsets that I'm not good enough, I can't achieve this, or because of my skin color, because of my
mhm,
race, because of my background, I can't do
mhm,
this. I can't start this business. I can't explore this. It's too hard, you know yeah, those things can certainly limit people, and it's very important for one to be. You can only fix what you're conscious of. You can only change something that you're aware of, and if you're not aware of the
mm,
vulnerabilities of your mindset and the way your mind is operates, then you will not
mm,
be able to fix it. All right, at the end of the day, if you understand yourself and you learn about yourself, that's what neuroscience really is about, isn't it? Helping you to understand who you are, how you're designed, and the vulnerabilities in the system. Every
wow.
human being is vulnerable. There's no perfect person. All right. And so I see it as that your personality, your each personality is blessed with strengths and weaknesses. If you
Mm,
understand how you are wired, then you can enhance your strengths and minimize your weaknesses, so you can improve
mm.
your performance and you can be a better person.
Guys, you will agree with me. Dr. Nee just touched some sensitive nerves, within, as in, wow, I didn't know this was like this before, and all. Thank you so much. Now, traditionally in our schools, in our society, you rarely hear us talk about stuffs like this. From where you stand, do you think it would be nice or proper to have such discussions in, say, our schools, churches, neighborhood, in liberating us from this limiting beliefs?
Yeah, absolutely. But every time, culture shapers rise
Mm,
to challenge the status quo, they would always force opposition. And the opposition is usually by institutions. The institutions that are
mhm,
meant to protect us are often the ones that would stand against us. All right. And
mm,
so that's just what history tells us, that institutions It's very difficult to change institutional culture, and so often change will come from outside, inside. All right.
Mm, mm,
So you look at the way our churches, for example, in Africa, they're designed to, I don't want to use the word exploit. They're designed to meet a certain need, and when you take away those needs, you then basically destroy the business model of the
mm,
growth of those churches. That's just a simple fact. And so, with if you look at the same brand of a church, just pick up any church. For example, maybe a church that I attend here. How I would present the gospel to the people here will be completely different because their needs are different. I can't
yeah,
tell them that, oh yeah, in order for you to get money to get a car, you come to church, because they don't need church for that. They have government, they have social security. All right.
mm-hmm,
So you're
mm-hmm,
not going to come to church because of money. They have good health care, and even though the health care will not solve every problem, at least it solves a lot of the problems. So I
yeah,
can't say only come to church for healing. I have to really go back to the essence, all right, of what it is, why you need this. But imagine you then advocating this in a society where the institutions have been built on this foundation. All right,
yeah,
it will be difficult for you to really penetrate. All right,
mm,
and that's what I am really really focused on, especially when it comes to the neuroscience of leadership, helping people understand how they are wired, how within as a leader, for example,
yeah,
you can improve your performance if you understand leadership, if you understand the reactions of people when they're uncertain, if you understand how people think. A lot
yeah,
of people will struggle with this, and a lot of people will still challenge it because it would not be good for them. All right,
mm-hmm,
because they thrive, their business model thrives on exploiting people. All
mm,
right, and so when you liberate
mm,
people and say, listen, you can be better than this, you really do not need this. Do you know that if you do this and that, you can be a much more robust and person? Then
yeah,
you realize that that can be a challenge. But I am confident that more and more people are beginning to see this, and they're beginning to resonate with this. All right,
okay,
and
right,
hopefully we raise more and more leaders who will champion this skills outside of this register, institutions, and they will come on
mm,
board. Institutions are often the last group of people to come on board,
yeah,
and so it's going to be a takeover. It's going to be a takeover.
beautiful. So what is NIE up to this period? Because I go, I mean, I went to your LinkedIn profile to check one or two things, and I was like, this guy is doing a lot. He's so busy. You know, he's so busy with it, so much. So what are you up to? Let's know what you're up to and where we can catch you.
Yes. So currently, my flagship program called Legacy is going to be on next month, and it's amazing. It's a program
Mm,
that is focused on leadership. Leading for legacy is the theme. So, how you can transform your leadership into legacy, how you
mm,
can translate the vision of your leadership into an outstanding legacy. That's what it's all about. We've got a keynote speaker in John C. Maxwell who will be speaking powerfully on the
oh,
topic. We also have some amazing speakers, Fela Drotoye and
awesome.
Jumoke Adinawo. Jumoke Adinawo is one of the top five female architects in the world, and she's a professor
Yeah,
of architecture, and she's a renowned speaker, philanthropist, and an amazing woman.
yeah.
So she'll be giving a keynote as well. We also have some conversation drivers on change leadership, self leadership by Wendy Bonds. Wendy Bonds is one of the leaders of within the John Maxwell team,
Mm,
and we'll also be having a conversation on visionary leadership by Debola Dejikurumi and Samuel Ekundayo, the purpose preacher from New Zealand. We've got a
mm,
powerful panel during that program as well. We have a VIP session. The event is free, but there's a VIP session there that I will be handling on the neuroscience of peak performance,
okay,
and with a few other people. So that's a paid part of the program, but the program itself is a free program. All you got to do just to register on the website legacyconsults.com.au.
okay.
That's a main flagship event. Apart from that, we've got a few other models and programs that are coming up on the neuroscience of leadership
Mm,
and performance. So pretty
beautiful.
much that's what I have at the moment.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Is it going to be a physical event as an or a virtual
Oh
event?
no, it's a virtual event. It's a virtual event, yes, because the audience is a global audience. It's a
Mm-hmm.
virtual event. We've got
Mm-hmm.
from the 25th of August to the 27th of August,
Mm,
and it's four sessions over 3 days.
mm.
And as I said, it's you need to register. If you register, it's going to be streamed live on YouTube. From
Okay.
the 25th of August to 27th of August. So it's going to
Beautiful.
be really amazing. Last year we had Nick Vujicic, very
Mm,
amazing program, and we had over 7,000 registrants. We're aiming for 20,000 registrants this time around, so hopefully we'll have quite a number of people attend. We've got thousands already who have registered for the program. We still have 2 more
mm.
months to go, so
Yeah.
it would be a great program. Can I just say just something very quickly,
Go ahead.
and
Go ahead.
sort of on the neuroscience of success,
Yeah.
which I thought I'll just quickly mention. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Now, the way the brain is wired or designed to keep us alive. The brain's primary function is to keep us alive. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the way the brain does that is by constantly scanning the environment for threats. Our brains are designed as powerful predictive machines. So
Yeah.
our brain looks around us, learns from our environment, stores the information so that when we encounter the same threats in the future, our brain can bring up, the past memory
Mm-hmm.
to determine how we behave. And that recollection and processing happens at a subconscious level. You see, that's why it's very easy to perpetrate the same response to, situations. That's actually the basis for conditioning, where,
Mm-hmm.
you see someone, you judge them already before you've even looked at them because of the way they look or because of the way they appear, because your
Mm,
brain looks at them and feels this person is not dressed corporately, or this person does not speak good English, or this person is this and that. And so, based on your past experience, you put a label on them already. We call that value tagging. You see them, your brain tags them with a value. All right.
mm,
It's completely different. For example, if you see Oprah at the airport, immediately you
mm,
have that sensory experience of seeing her. Your brain draws on your memory, and you remember how she is a superstar. The
mm-hmm.
value is high. All right. And at a subconscious level, you won't even know when you wave or smile at her. You won't even
Mm,
know. If someone said you smiled at Oprah, you will not know until you see that maybe there's a video camera. They say, "Oh, you actually smiled." Whereas if it was somebody that was nobody that you did not know who approached you at the airport, you probably would be like, "Oh, that kind of thing." A lot of
mm.
all those things happen at a very subconscious level, and that's because your brain predicts your behavior based on past experience. So that's what the brain does. But guess what? The brain does that in order to help us survive. Creates
Okay.
so the brain is always scanning for threat. And so when the brain sees threat and the brain goes into a threat state, with our minds become full of negative emotions like fear,
Yeah.
apprehension, skepticism, anger. All of those negative emotions predominate a state of fear. All right. And when you're sorry, a state of threat. And when you're
Threat.
in a threat state, you can't really thrive, because when you're in threat state, your focus becomes narrow. You can't see broad. You lack insights. You won't be able to generate insights to solve
Mm.
problems. When you're in a threat state, you won't be able to, you become problem focused rather than solution focused. All
Focus.
right. The
Yeah.
challenge of leadership in our day is to translate people, move people from a threat state into a reward state. Because when you're in a reward state, you have a lot of positive emotions, you have a lot of, happiness and excitement, and those are positive emotions that
Yeah.
predominate the mind, and that creates you know a chemical environment that allows the brain to function properly. And studies have shown us that when people are in a threat state, they perform cognitively poorer. In fact, there's a recent study done in Harvard that showed that when executives are in a reward state, their cognitive function improves by more than
Improve.
50%. All right.
Whoa.
So if we're going to talk about success, all right, if you're going to
Mm.
be successful, you must understand how your brain works. You must understand how to stay more in a reward state than in a threat state. You must understand how to manage your emotions. That's where emotional
Mm.
mastery comes in. How to,
Yeah.
use circuit breakers so that
Mm-hmm.
you don't become overwhelmed by negative emotions that would then limit your ability to process things properly and make decisions, strategic decisions that will help you achieve success. So there's a lot to unpack here, which we
A
can, but I thought
lot.
I'd mention that to
Yeah.
you about
Yeah.
how the brain is wired. And so I think the take home that I would say for people here is that your brain is wired to keep you alive. Your brain is
Okay.
constantly scanning for threats. Do you know
Sorry.
5 times a second your brain is scanning for threat? Every second, 5 times a
Five
second,
times
your
a
brain,
second.
yes, your brain is scanning for
Whoa.
threats. In the millennia ago, the threats would be, when man was a hunter gatherer, would be bear and a
Mm.
lion, all of those
Mm.
things. Now the threat is, in the environment. One word spoken. It could be
Mm-hmm.
somebody saying something to you. It could be,
Mm-hmm.
somebody looking at you somehow. Facial
Mm-hmm.
expression. That's why we're more likely to pick up negative expressions and negative things than positive things. You're more likely to pick up somebody saying a black guy, like
Mm.
you're more likely to pick that up than somebody praising you. So if somebody says, wow, that's an intelligent black guy, you're more likely to get offended, even though it's a compliment. You look, oh, why are you putting black there? Do you understand? And that's because your brain is constantly searching for threat. And why?
Yeah.
Because your brain has been conditioned that, oh, you can't judge me or call me based on the color of my skin, and
Mm.
so you lose the sight of even if the person was doing it innocently, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's very important for people to understand that if you're going to achieve success, you need to understand how to, manage yourself so that you don't stay too long in a threat state and you move into a reward state. And that's what I teach. I teach leaders how they can move from a threat state into a reward state and how they can get the people that the lead and the mentor and the coach from the threat state into a reward state so they can be successful and
Now,
they can obtain a
how
peak
how
performance.
how do we handle this? The transitioning, threat, reward. Because from what you said now, for corporate environments where you see people complain about toxicity, it fits into the threat state. Like, this place is too toxic. I mean, I can't breathe. I can't function because of the toxic
Mhm.
nature. So how do
Mhm.
I change that conversation?
Well, that's a whole masterclass. All right. But the few pointers there, it starts from understanding what the threat state is and understanding, for example, what people need.
Mm,
Sometimes when we don't understand the needs of the people, particularly for leaders, we would not deal with that. And even for an individual. So I've got a model called the access model, which basically helps people assess what is their main social motivation. For some
mm,
people, what they really need when to function is autonomy. And it doesn't matter if you give them certainty. So we've got autonomy, we've got certainty, we've got safety, we've got equality. All right. And I think we've got one more that I just skipped my mind. So for
mm.
some people, what really matters to them is autonomy. For
Yeah.
other people, it's connection. All right.
Mm,
So what makes them really thrive and successful, all right, is a sense of connectedness. They want to be able to work with other people and they connect with people. Those are the people that will come to work on the Monday. I will tell you everything that happened on the weekend. I went fishing, I went this. They want to tell a story. They do well in an environment where there's connection. So for them, what matters is connection. If you as a leader, you don't thrive on
yeah.
connection, you're like you come on the Monday morning, you're business minded, yours is about, just doing your thing, you will not really engage them and they will feel that you are just, not
Mm.
connecting with them.
You're
So when
connecting
you
with them.
share them, when you're trying to create change and produce change in there, they would not follow you all the way. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And even for yourself as a person, for example, I used to work in a group practice. I used to be a salaried doctor but I realized that what I really wanted was autonomy. I wanted to just be on my own. I wanted to be able
Mm,
to determine when I wake up, when I go to work, when I work, how I work. I couldn't stand a 9 to 5 thing. For me,
mm,
autonomy was really important. So that determined the kind of job I do now and the way I've arranged my practice so that I've got autonomy. All right. So for example, on a Monday, this Monday, for example, I take 1 Monday off every month. I only work 3.5 days a week, and every second Monday I don't work. I just chill. I
mm,
don't work on Thursdays. Every Thursday I really do not work. I took off all Thursdays so I can do coaching, I can do ministry
mm.
work, and I can rest. Okay.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have been able to do that, if I did not, if I just locked myself into a contract that would be 9 to 5. But of course,
Mm,
because I knew that was what I wanted, then I waited. I remember that I had opportunities for 9 to 5 permanent part full-time jobs, which I said no to. If I had said yes to them, I would still be stuck today. I wouldn't be exploring the neuroscience of leadership and starting a new business. All right.
mm.
Now I will still be stuck with that at the moment, and this will not flourish. So did it pay
Wow.
off initially? No. I was on short-term contracts for a longer time than I wanted because I knew what I
Mm,
wanted. And so it's really important that people understand what their motivators for success are. What are the things that push you? What makes you thrive? For some people, it's safety. All right, they want
mm.
safety. They want to be sure. They want. Also, for some others, it's certainty. They
Yeah.
thrive on certainty. So when they're in a position where they're uncertain about tomorrow and all that. You see that they're in a threat state. You see that for them, they can't just function. All right, because they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. They don't know whether they still have a job. They don't know they're on contracts. There's a lot
Yeah.
of uncertainty for them, and that just
Yeah.
creates threat. They can't function. Whereas for some people, they don't care about what happens tomorrow. It's today. Theirs is, well, today. For others, it's equality. Equality in the sense
Quality.
that they want to be treated equally. They don't want to
Mm.
feel inferior. For some other people, it is recognition. What matters to them is being recognized. Do you understand what I'm
Whoa.
saying? Not because they're not
I
doing it for
do.
recognition, but they like to be acknowledged. Do you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
when they're in a place where their efforts are not being appreciated, or when they feel that the efforts are not, they don't thrive. They feel they are not wanted. They feel they are not needed. So it's important for a leader
Wow.
to know exactly what people need and how to tap into them, because it's not about ability. Remember that what we're talking about here is not about training people to be skilled. We're talking
Mm.
about people who are already skilled. We're talking about people who are already. So the neuroscience of success is not about teaching you how to succeed. It's about helping you to understand how your brain works and how to understand what your motivators are, emotional, cognitive motivators are, so that you
Mm-hmm.
can then channel your energy and your cognitive
Energy.
resources into those areas. So that's just, there's so many things. I've not even talked about emotional mastery and emotional intelligence, and because
Yeah.
that's a key thing. Because there are many times you get into a threat state. The many
Yep.
times you do that, every single hour you have
Mm-hmm.
more than 490 emotions every single hour.
What did you
All right.
say?
Every hour you've got over 490 emotions generated. But
You've done.
not all of these
Ouch.
emotions are conscious.
Yeah.
Not all of these
Mm-hmm.
emotions are conscious. Whilst we're talking, I'm sure that you've had emotions of awe, emotions of
Mm.
excitement, emotions of
Mm.
concern. We
Mm.
have all these emotions. Some of them are not cognitively represented, so we don't feel them. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But they are there. Okay, so how do you master those emotions when there is uncertainty and there's inflation and stagflation, and
Mm.
where there's a thought of recession and gas
Mm.
prices are up, and there's war in Ukraine, and contracts are not going up? Well, I went to fill my gas yesterday, and gosh, I was like, wow, for 50 something
Mm.
liters, look at how much I'm paying to fill my tank. All of those things are happening, and interest rates are rising everywhere in the world, and a lot of people are maybe in a threat state will be listening to this call right now, and their emotions are just
Yeah.
because they've got bills to pay, they've got this, they've got that, and they're like, oh God, how am I going to do this? All right.
Mm.
Yes, you may not be able to change the situation. You can't stop Putin in Ukraine and produce more gas. You can't lower
Mm-hmm.
gas prices. All right. You
Mm-hmm.
may not even be able to leave your job or leave that relationship, but you
Mm-hmm.
may be able to master your
Man.
emotions and control your emotions. But you need to understand what emotions are. You need to know how emotions affect you. You need to know that it's not wrong for you to have emotions. It's not wrong to be emotional. And the whole idea of being emotional is actually, it's a misnomer. There's nothing like, everybody's
Mm.
emotional. All right.
Yeah.
And you then need to know, how can I, what are the kind of circuit breakers? All right. Deep
I need
breathing,
to bring in.
labeling the emotions, reappraising
Mm.
the emotions. How do I properly process emotions? And then how do I master emotions? And then how do I then have proactive strategies that will give me good emotional health, brain breaks, diet,
Mm.
sleep, exercise, aerobic exercise. There are lots of things that I can go on a whole. In fact, I think in 2 weeks time I'll be doing a masterclass with a psychiatrist in the UK. She's invited me to come and talk for a masterclass. We'll be
Mm.
talking for about 1 hour or 2 hours on emotional mastery. Okay, so
Mm.
all of these things are important in moving people from a threat state to a reward state. So you see,
Mm.
it's not just one thing, and that's what
No, it's
what
not.
neuroscience is all about.
Guys, you will agree with me. We all need a knee in our corner. We need a
Mhm.
knee borire in our corner when it comes to this. You can see uh for 40 minutes plus a subject matter you think you would just like, okay, no, but you and I, we can agree, as in you can see, you'll agree with me, is something that will take us a whole lifetime, to understand and even pass it on to the next generation. Guys, wherever you are, please connect with Dr. Nee Borire. Please go ahead. Give us that detail again about your program, because I told you before we started where we'll get to that point, asking where did the time go? All of a sudden, it's like now, almost an hour. We're just talking like that. So tell us more about your legacy program again. Let my audience, get a good grasp of it again.
Yeah, so the Legacy Conference 2022 will be happening by God's grace on the 25th to the 27th of August 2022. And we have an international leadership expert, John Maxwell. So if you want to join the community of change driven and goal oriented leaders like
Mm,
me, you want to switch your mindset from leadership to legacy. That's what we're doing. We want to switch
legacy.
our mindset from leadership to legacy, from success to significance, from impact to influence. Then you've got to be here because we're going to be teaching practical transformational leadership tools. You're going to be blessed with rich learning, fresh ideas, inspirational insights from
Mm,
renowned global leaders from various walks of life, that would bless you and empower you. The keynote speaker again is John Maxwell. Is a number one, New York Times best-selling author, a speaker, a coach, world leading expert on leadership. All right. And of course,
mm,
I will be speaking as well on the neuroscience of leadership. We've also got Wendy Burns, who is an inspirational speaker and leadership coach. And we've got Mrs. Jumoke Adinawa, Feladro Toye, wonderful coaches, powerful speakers, and we are all going to
mm,
be talking about leadership and legacy. John Maxwell said leadership is not about titles, positions, or flowcharts. It's about one
mhm.
life influencing another. But it's not just
Another
we're not
life
just talking about influence. We're talking about transgenerational influence. That's legacy.
influence.
Legacy is about you influencing someone and leaving a mark that is unforgettable, in life. So that's what we want to build. So if you go to the website Legacy Consults, one word with an S, there's an S at the end of consults,
Okay.
legacyconsults.com.au. You will find that there. All the details are there. The registration link is there. You can register straight away. It's going to be
Beautiful.
powerful.
Thank you so much, guys. I encourage you, go for that. This is my, would I say, fourth or fifth encounter with Dr. Nee, through the classes and all that. We belong to
Mhm.
the same tribe. So when we sit and I hear
Yeah.
him talk, super, super, super. So I encourage you, Dr. Nee, thank you so much for taking out this
Thanks
time
for
to
having me.
do, yes,
Thanks
to
for
do
having
this with
me.
us. So before I let you go, just that last word for my audience.
Yeah. My last word for you is that don't settle for the less. Don't accept, those don't accept where you are. Don't settle for the less. Don't settle for an
Mm,
average, middling, mediocre life. The best is yet to come. You can be better than this. And this is not just some motivational stuff. I'm telling you truth. You can get better. You can improve the way you think, the way you feel, the way you process things. You can improve on all areas. And that's what my job is, to help you improve
mm.
your thinking, your feeling, and your behaving so that you can be the person you're meant to be. That's it.
Amazing. Your feeling, your behaving. That's what he's here to do. Guys, thank you so much, Dr. Need. Thank you
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you,
And
Amatri. Thank you for
that
having me.
that program, honestly, I encourage you, everybody listening to me, please go register for that legacy. Go ahead. You can check up me on, I know you on, I mean, just give us your handle so that just in case,
Yes.
we
So
want
you
to
can
catch
follow
up
me on
with you.
Instagram. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, ni_borire. Actually, it's Ni Borire, one word. Ni
One
Borire,
word.
Niyiborire. You can follow me on Ni Borire, on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm also on YouTube as well, Ni Borire. Search me anywhere, Ni Borire. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Ni Borire, everywhere. All right, you can follow me
Beautiful.
on any of those channels and I'll be happy to connect. I'm not yet on TikTok. There's just too
Okay.
many apps right now. So,
Too many.
yes,
Yes. All right, guys. Oh, we need to call it a day, but you will agree with me. It
yes,
has been an exciting moment with Dr. Nee
yes, it has
Borire.
been.
I mean, I just, for this 30 plus minutes, I mean, a lot has been said, which I am going to unpack myself, going over again, listening to it again, and all that. Yes. All right, guys. Till we come your way again, you know how we say it on the show. Bye for now.